YouTube! It's been a while, it's been a minute. Listen, Project Hail Mary recently dropped a couple of, or like, I think like last month, correct me if I'm wrong. I saw it, it's a great movie. And I want to see what other people think about it, see if we share the same, mindset. Let's get right into it. Project Hail Mary is that good.
Project Hail Mary, we are finally here. It is finally released. Everyone is talking about it. It's now the sci-fi film of this decade, and Ryan Gosling has stolen my heart once again. For those of you who are unaware or are just hearing about Project Hail Mary and like hearing about the buzz about it, this is a new film adaptation from the book by Andy Weir. You may have heard of him. He's also wrote The Mark.
I haven't read the book yet. Is the book good? Is the book good? I want to read it, but it's like I'm not a reader, chat. If you know me, I'm not a reader.
But this story is about a scientist who wakes up from a coma in space, not knowing why he's there or how he even got there in the first place. And then he starts to slowly piece together his memories while on this mission to save the Earth. And amidst all that, he meets a rock, an alien space rock, might I add. He names the rock Rocky. You gotta love the creativity.
One of the best characters I've ever seen on a screen, Rocky. Oh my goodness, I love him. Amaze.
The two join forces in an attempt to save their home planets from extinction because both of their sons are dying from a nasty terrestrial bacteria called astrophage. Together, they join forces to collect samples, travel to new planets, and find a way to defeat the astrophage, all while finding a purpose and a wholesome friendship along the way.
Can I just talk about this scene for a while? So, I've told many people this. This movie, Project Hail Mary, was my first ever 5-star on Letterboxd, and I'll tell you why. For my criteria, for a movie to be 5 stars, I want it to make me feel something I've never felt before. This scene alone was basically the factor on what made me decide, yeah, this is 5 stars. Because this is so visually appealing. I have never seen a shot like this in a movie. This looks like it comes straight out of a TikTok edit. Now listen, I know my brain is probably TikTokified, but I don't care. Listen, this scene is just so visually appealing. Seeing it in theaters where you're just laying back there and you're just taken aback and you're just, oh. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so amazing, and it literally felt it in my lower intestines. That's how crazy it felt. It made me want to take a shit.
This film is directed by the dynamic duo of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and I mean, bravo to them. They just know how to handle these kinds of movies. If you're not familiar with their work, I'm sure you are, because these are the guys behind some of your favorite films, such as the Lego Movie, the Spider-Verse films, and the 21 Jump Street movies that definitely needs a third installment, but that's a conversation for another day. But with Project Hail Mary, they did a fantastic job at nailing the hopeful aspect that some sci-fi films in Hollywood tend to struggle with. Because when movies do the one man saves the world type of trope, the hope aspect doesn't necessarily land all the time, but I think for this particular project, they actually got it right. Alongside the hopeful aspect.
This movie also, I'm a big fan of Ryan Gosling movies, especially, I'm also a big fan of space movies. So it's no surprise, if you may not know this, Ryan Gosling did a space movie before. It was First Man. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so highly underrated, and I won't give any spoilers to it. Obviously, it's based on Neil Armstrong and Apollo 11. That basically sparked my interest in Apollo 11. But it's amazing. Like, the story is so well put together, and it gives you a new perspective on how terrible this man's life was. This man was so depressed. I won't tell you why, but brother, if you were Neil Armstrong, I'm surprised how he actually was able to do Apollo 11 just on his own. Because, oh my goodness, dude. He had a terrible life. Like, an absolutely terrible life. Like, on the surface, it looked good. But, yeah, bro, if y'all haven't seen First Man yet, there's a movie rec for you. Go watch it. It's incredible.
Project Hail Mary does thrive as a film with its well-casted characters, its unique blend of storytelling, and of course the stunning cinematography by the one and only Greg Fraser. I will talk about that a little bit later in this review. But what keeps this film lighthearted and hopeful is the duo of Ryan Gosling and the newfound star of the film, Rocky. Gosling does bring a stellar and a very emotional performance, but I don't think it's his best in my opinion because his earlier projects are just that good.
Don't talk down to me.
But he does carry the movie on his shoulders with ease. And reading the book beforehand, knowing that he was Ryland Grace, it just made sense. The humor in the book, the voice of the character, you can just hear Gosling say all of that, and that's exactly why I thought this was perfect casting. Because he has the charm, he has the comedic timing down, and I will always bring up the nice guys. Justice for the
if oh my god, what a frame to pause on. I haven't read the book, like I said earlier, but if the book is basically what he said in the movie, yeah, that makes sense. That is something like where in the beginning of the movie where he goes, "That's not our son." That makes sense. That makes sense. That is something that he would say. Is it a bomb? That makes sense.
Nice guys, by the way. He should be doing more comedic roles, and this film just proves that otherwise. Opposite of Rylan and Rocky is Sandra Hüller's character who plays Strat. She balances all of that humor just like her character does in the book, really grounding the story since there's a lot of sarcastic remarks that can otherwise overshadow the stakes of, you know, the earth dying and all. Her karaoke moment, singing Sign of the Times, was such a beautiful scene, and I think
that made me feel things. I was like, holy. Bro, they picked a perfect song to put Project Hail Mary, because now anytime I will hear Sign of the Times, I'll just think of this movie.
I think that was such a great call by Phil Lord and Chris Miller to add this to the film. It does humanize Strat as a person because in the book, she is stone cold and very robotic. So I think that this really humanized her and saying like, yes, even though she's constantly ordering everybody to get a move on and like, let's save the earth. But this was a moment that needed to be added, I think. And I think they did a fantastic job with it. When early screenings happened for this film, we kept hearing the notion of E.T. and there were E.T. vibes in this film. They were not wrong. This is just my opinion, but Rocky is a blend of E.T. and
I never noticed that. Well, I mean, E.T. he really only spoke one word. Rocky, who's like, what's happening? Question. See, that's why I liked him. He was like kind of like a friendly robot.
Grogu. I say Grogu because of the cute factor that he brings to screen. They relied heavily on the cuteness factor to portray Rocky, which ultimately helped out because, you know, when those moments were needed, they tugged on the heartstrings. And if you've seen the movie already and you've read the book, you already know what I'm talking about. Like, how can you say no to a face like this? He's adorable. I love the banter between the both of them. You almost forget why they're even on the mission in the first place because it's that good. Like, oh right, both their stars are dying and they're trying to save their planets from extinction. And in the midst of that dark looming thought over their heads, they take their time to watch the Rocky movies and kind of enjoy themselves and bond over what Earth is like for Grace while they're waiting to reach the
business idea for the makers of Project Hail Mary. Create a toy Rocky. Now I know that's probably been thought of, but I'm talking like not life size, but it's like you get like a hamster ball, right? And you get it to say these things and it just like rolls around. Like we have robots where they just kind of roam around. Look at a Roomba. Use the same technology they use for the Roomba, where if it sees a wall, it moves away. Do that. Bro, that's like $1 million business idea, no?
Planet Adrian in this part. And speaking of the Planet Adrian, I have to talk about this sequence because this is by far one of my favorite scenes in the entire film. I hope a lot of people felt the same way that I did during this sequence because it absolutely felt like we were levitating in that theater. They absolutely nailed the depiction of what the glowing red trails of the Petrova line looks like, because the moment that Rylan was having up there was just truly spectacular, and all I can genuinely describe this as was being transcended while watching this in IMAX 70mm. I'm sorry, I have to flex just a little bit more. Bear with me. It was just an insane sequence to experience. The blinking red lights were so colorful, and again, the cinematography by Greg Fraser was just beautiful imagery all around. I want to take a moment here and dive a little bit deeper into the cinematography, but Greg Fraser shot this on a digital IMAX equivalent of what would be a true IMAX film camera and used what's called the film out process, something he's also done on the first two Dune movies and the Batman. And with this process, I believe that this has become his signature way of escaping the digital gray, the flat look that digital cameras are notorious for. And it shows because there's tons of color here and there's a lot of warmth that the film negatives give. Another thing I loved about the cinematography in the film was the swapping of aspect ratios. I think they did a great job on the space sequences were in 1:4:3 and the Earth sequences were in 2:3:9. Between the aspect ratio swaps paired with the in-camera prism effects, they all worked so well together. It seamlessly mirrored Ryland's memories, him slowly piecing together how he got into the mission in real time. This was a bold and beautiful visual choice that served this story perfectly.
Bad. Now,
but if you
Yo, just compare the good section to the bad section. Look how small it is. That's funny. So there wasn't really much bad about the film. The one thing I think they could have done maybe better, and this is like so nitpicky, because I mean the story itself was great, but if they could have hyped up that like the whole fishing scene a lot more, like making it such a nightmare. I feel like that would have elevated that whole scene as a whole. Like I feel like they skipped it. They may or may not have had that in the book. I don't know. I haven't read the book yet. Let me know in the comments if there was actually something in the book like that in the book where they actually kind of hyped up the because they did hype it up a little bit, but not. I was hoping like for like a whole new scene where they analyze it and what would happen if they fail, and it's like what if he dies or something like that, where they make like this whole daunting mission and then they actually do it, and it's like I think that would elevate that whole scene where it's like before you're going into it, you're like, oh my god, what if it does happen? What if this does happen? You don't know what the consequence for it would be if like what would happen if Ryland did die during that scene, but. Spoiler alert: he didn't. I think everyone knows that. He lives. That's the one bad thing I would say is they probably could have hyped up a few more of the scenes or added some few more scenes to it.
You couldn't tell by this review already, I do genuinely love this film, and I don't have too many bad things to say about it, just some nitpicks here and there. As I mentioned previously, I read the book before seeing it in theaters, which is something I don't do often. It's very rare for me, and I should start doing more because reading is fun. It's hard to compare the book and the film since they are, two entirely different art forms, but there are some things that I wish that were in the book that made it to the film. Some emotional beats felt rushed to me. One in particular is Ryland truly finding himself, which I thought was a major plot point in the book. And again, talking on the emotional heartstrings, his struggle with identity and how he spent much of his life running away from a lot of his problems. I just wanted a little more of that. There are a few more things in the book that just didn't make the cut. There are a lot of interactions that Ryland had with other scientists, and the teacher storyline was just glossed over, which I think could have been a powerful emotional beat, but for the sake of time...
I said I'd kind of disagree with him, but on a surface level, I somewhat agree with him. There's parts of it that I think they should have added, especially, like, I liked him as a teacher. If they added more of him as, like, a teacher and, like, maybe the students would have been like, oh, where'd he go, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of my ass here, but, like, I don't care. Nonetheless, it was a great movie. There was nothing too bad about it.
And the flow of the story, I totally get it. In short, the book works as the book and the film works as the film. This is still a smooth and digestible adaptation from what I'm getting from a lot of the general audience response to this film. And what I mean by digestible, I mean this is for all ages, and this is far more accessible than something like Interstellar when it first came out. I do however think this is one of the better space movies that we've gotten in a long...
For someone who doesn't really understand astrophysics that much, and especially, which is kind of weird to me saying like that space movies are one of my favorite genres of film. The story itself is super easy to understand. With Interstellar, obviously, well, I think Interstellar and Project Hail Mary kind of run at similar times. I've tried to watch Interstellar multiple times, and I've seen parts of it. This is gonna sound shocking. I've never seen the whole sit down of Interstellar. I've wanted to. The furthest I've gotten was like I think maybe like hour 30, and I didn't really comprehend what the story was. I didn't really understand what the story was there, because they're using all these scientific terms. They use scientific terms here, but it's just I feel like they use it in a way where it's kind of easy to understand, if that makes any sense.
Time, and it will absolutely make its mark as being one of the standout sci-fi films of the last decade. I'm going on way too many side tangents here, but I give Project Hail Mary 4.5 out of 5 thumbs down. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked my review of Project Hail Mary, please consider giving me a like. It actually helps out this video a lot, and consider subscribing if you'd like.
Go support him. He's this video was actually amazing. This video was amazing. Yeah, I like Project Hail Mary as well. Anyways, great movie. I've said my thoughts. To recap, it's a great movie. I gave it 5 stars because it made me feel things that I've never felt before when watching a movie. Not too much bad things. It could have added maybe a few more scenes to it to make it wee bit better and make the story flow a way bit better. But nonetheless, it's still a great movie. Probably one of the best movies I've seen in years. And I mean that. If you haven't seen it, go take a watch. Go take a look. Go to your theaters. Pray to God that it's still showing, because I mean it's been in theaters for nearly a month now. Great movie, and it was so great. I had to watch it twice in theaters. That is something I glossed over. I had to watch it twice. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Go follow Twitch. Go follow TikTok. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. I'm going to try and post more on here, especially with shorts in long form. Anyways, y'all. Peace!